So I recently very vividly revisited memory, but with a brand new detail that I never remembered. And it was far more vivid than I can ever remember things. In around 2008 or 2009, my friend was spending the night at my house. We were in the 4th grade. Dead of the night. Pitch black in the house and outside except for the backyard light. We walk into the living room and see a layer of eyes under the shed. That's how we've always remembered it. Same exact thing happened with a different friend a few years later. But the other night, I very vividly was back in that memory. And instead of the eyes under the shed, there was this tall 7 to 8 foot tall thing. Arms way too long, looked like something quadrupedal but on 2 legs instead. Very skinny. Had a head that was mostly humanoid. Just a bit longer towards the bottom. The entire head was completely featureless and white. It had antlers. It was just standing there, staring at us. I asked both friends I'd seen the eyes with and individually asked them to think about that night. But also, think about deer antlers. Then, they both got a really uneasy feeling, and could see fragments of the exact thing I vividly saw. I didn't tell them about it until after they told me what they saw. All 3 of us can only picture it in, fragments. Almost like our brain isn't letting us remember/picture it, and giving us a super uneasy feeling when we try to. This happened in Texas, by the way, in a suburb, and a creek ran right behind my house. So, I have no idea where to start, but I'll start with the beginning of whatever the fuck happened a long-ass time ago. I'm typing this on my phone, so sorry about any formatting issues or shit like that. I live in Hawaii. You can probably tell from the title. More specifically, the island Oahu. It's pretty damn urban on this island, save for a few forests and trails for hiking. I was in middle school at the time, 8th grade. It was around fall, before fall break for school. I have 2 best friends that I've known for a long-ass time, Jay and Nick. Jay's a big-ass Filipino guy who's also into anime and shit. Nick at the time was into sailing, and that's all he did in his free time. Even got me and Jay to go over once or twice. All 3 of us were in band. I played the tenor sax, Jay played the baritone, Nick played the alto sax. The school I go to is nothing special. We're mediocre, average, just a middle school. There's some trees at the back of the school by our basketball courts that stretches about 3 to 4 miles. Really not that much. And it touches the back door of the band room. No one's allowed to use the back door of the band room, mostly because you kinda can't. There's nothing back there but trees and shit. Jay, Nick, and I decided to come back to the school in the middle of the night. Jay doesn't live too far, so we can just sleep over at his house and sneak out at night. We plan to do it on the first weekend of fall break. Now, if you don't know anything about schools in Hawaii, is that they're not indoors. I don't even think Hawaii has an indoor school. They're all strictly outdoors and open. Anyway, between the school and Jay's house, there's a trail with a bunch of tall grass that we hate walking through. It always made our legs itchy. But it was nighttime and decided, fuck it, let's take the trail. We leave Jay's house and walk through the trail, and halfway through, there's this awful smell, kinda like how rust tastes, mixed with vinegar. Lots of vinegar. We ignore it and make our way to the school, hop the back fence, and get onto the grounds. After a while of exploring, we decide to go to the band room's back door, and see what it's like. It's fenced off, which discourages kids from going back there. Unfortunately, seeing the back door means going a bit into the woods area. We circle around the back and look at the door like amused idiots. We fiddle with the door a bit, and I just stop what I'm doing while I'm shaking the doorknob. I quickly jerk my head, and of course Jay and Nick do the same, reacting to my reaction. Right fucking there, some kind of white limb sticking out from behind one of the trees. It could have been mistaken for a white branch, but it was too fucking white. So its limb is sticking out from one side of the tree, and we see a white circle on the other side, and it's just moving up and down like a fucking buoy. Another limb comes out from the same side as its head, and that's all it gets before Jay fucking yells out, "Oh shit!" and bolts. Nick and I following, soon getting ahead. We jump the fence. When we get over, we look behind us. We can see the fucking thing way better than before. It moved from behind the tree, and was curled up in a ball, stretching out its arms. If I had to guess, if it stood up, it'd be maybe 8 feet tall, although pretty fucking skinny. Its limbs had joints like people, if you can understand. We bolt the fuck out of there through the trail, hoping to get to any fucking house, if not Jay's. While running, we found the source of the smell from before, a chicken that belonged to the lady who always yelled at us for going on the trail. We dip into someone's backyard from the trail and onto the streets. We feel relatively safe as Jay's house can be seen and some people are drinking in their garages. We all agreed not to talk about the incident much, but let me say, we didn't sleep that night at Jay's. We never even left his room after we got to his house. Which brings me to now. Nick moved to San Diego, but visits every now and then. Jay and I go to the same community college. And this is when shit gets fucking terrifying. I went to Jay's house to pick him up for a concert. He's getting ready in his room while I wait in the kitchen, drinking the chocolate milk from his fridge. I look out the window of the kitchen towards the trail, and I swear with everything in my soul, that fucking thing was watching me, somehow. It was there for maybe 2 seconds, crawling back into the woods. The thing is, I was looking out a screened window, and the trail to the woods was at least half a football field's length away. And it wasn't looking at me, I think. but something tells me it was looking right at me, and turned away when I turned. I didn't tell Jay. That was a week ago. I fear for myself as well as Jay. What the fuck was that? Please help. I'm from Scotland, and it gets dark here pretty quickly during the colder months, and it does get pretty dark. This encounter happened between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. Me and my friend Sam, name change for privacy reasons, we were hanging out in this big park. There's little to no lighting, but we were walking around talking, smoking, talking shit, really just being teenagers, I guess. So we decided to go to the actual swing park within the park so we can sit down and have a smoke. We're roughly 10 feet away from the park, and then there's this smell. I can't explain it, but it's rancid and physically makes me gag. We laugh and joke about it being a girl we don't like at the school, and head into the park. As we're walking to the swings, the smells got stronger, so we look around to see what it could actually be. Basically, there's a small wall around a foot tall, and there's a bench in front of that wall. And there's a guy squatting behind the bench, at least 4 to 5 feet tall while squatting, which meant he would have been at least 8 feet standing, and seems completely naked and hairless and pale. Although it was dark, so I couldn't tell really. We both stare at it for a few seconds before looking at each other as if to say, "You see it too, right?" And it starts fucking giggling like a 4-year-old girl. At this point, we both noped the fuck out of there and ran like our lives depended on it. When we were a good distance away, we ran into the high street, which had streetlights, and we just sort of laughed it off and went home. Sam seems to have forgotten about it, but just writing about it sends shivers down my spine. It's been about a month, and I still refuse to go back to that park after dark. This happened when I was a small child, probably around 4, after I had an experience that I now know as a near-death experience. I was with my grandmother, who was very healthy, still very healthy for a 70-year-old woman. We went trekking across our property with a picnic basket in tow, just looking to sit down with our dog and have a nice time. Normal grandparent stuff. We ended up crossing the creek. It was dry at the time, to go back to the back pasture. Nearby, probably 50 yards away, was a cedar tree. We'd sat down and started eating when our dog started acting crazy. This dog, bless her soul, was an angel. She didn't act like a dog most of the time. She never barked, never jumped, always acted polite. She went nuts, running in circles around us, growling and barking. My grandmother got concerned, so she put our picnic stuff back in the basket and tried to calm her down. I was sitting a few feet away, scared, because my dog was growling. I will admit my memory gets fuzzy around here, but I remember seeing a large gray creature step out from the tree line we'd previously walked through. My grandma scooped me up and booked it out of there, our dog running with us. I'm 90% sure she ran to the cedar tree. She always talks about it being her favorite tree and about how protective it is. The tree was a lot closer than her house. It was roughly half a mile away at this point. I just know our dog calmed down and I was happier. No, I don't live in the Southwest. I live in South Central / East Arkansas, close to Louisiana, so I have no idea what it could be. Okay, so where to start? Tonight my housemate started talking to me about skinwalkers, and I've been reading into it non-stop. Through comments, someone mentioned a fleshgate as a possible answer for someone's encounter. When looking up what a fleshgate was, I suddenly realized that growing up and going to my grandparents' house in the country near South Australia, there was a similar situation. I still remember to this day. My cousins and myself were walking back home one night when we saw a tall figure covered in fur moving around one of the farms. However, when we looked back a second time, it was gone. This was a clear, open paddock. When we got home, we were told about a man who wears the skins of animals, and if we see him, to avoid him at all costs. Now, he's been seen by locals, but only individuals, no groups. He'd been reported to officials by multiple people, enough to create a concern to tell the children. If I remember correctly, my grandpa was one of the only people to get a photo of this huge man. I'll try my best to see if I can find this photo, if he still has it, and bring it back to this community.